Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Angela Brennan and today I'm bringing you Canva Cards Challenge number 10. This is my second submission. It's a quarterly challenge which has got available card sketches. It shows you how to cut the pattern papers with cutting guides and lots of prizes. So there are cutting guides for 6 patterned papers and the cutting guides give you the numbers. Firstly, it shows you where to start cutting with the scissor icon. It gives you the numbers that the sketch relates to, as well as the direction in which those patterned pieces of paper will be going onto the sketches. So if you use directional patterned paper, you will need to consider how you're going to use them. But remember, these card sketches, you don't have to use it in the same orientation. You see it. You can move it to the left by 90 degrees, or to the right, or even turn it around by 180 degrees. So how you use the sketches, it's really your imagination is the limit. These are the sketches here. So there are 15 sketches and it's color coordinated to the cutting guide so you can match which pattern papers. And at the end there is also showing you all the sketches and which pattern papers relate to it. So and that will act as a guide in choosing the pattern papers when you choose them. It's really well documented and easy to follow, and if you're stuck, if you've got a block on your creativity, starting with these sketches allows you a starting point, and then how you embellish it, the colors you use, and that's where your creativity comes in full on. I've got all these details, how you go about organizing yourself to do this sketch, all in my blog, and the link to my blog is in the description below. Do head over so you will see how I do it. I use the Catherine Pooler Spring Pick and Mix pattern paper set. It's nice, thick 80-pound cardstock. And I use this, and it also tells you what are the inks that match these papers, which is really useful. So I've used the Catherine Pooler inks which match these pattern papers really well. I label them from A to F so I know which pattern paper relates to which cutting guide, and as I'm cutting the pattern paper, I'm putting it into numbered poly pockets. This allows me to know which piece of pattern paper relates to which card sketch. So when I'm pulling it together and doing each of the sketches, I have the right pieces of pattern paper with the right dimensions in each of the poly pockets. To see on how I do it, I do explain it in detail in my blog as well. Do head over. Now I show you some of the sketches I do. I don't show you all of the sketches on how I put it together. That'll be too long. But at the end of the video, I also show you a really cute A2 size card gift box and how you can make a gift out of these cards that you make. So do stick around and see that, and that is available through Canva Cards Challenge Patreon site, and I've got those details in my blog as well. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you do, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. And when you do subscribe, remember to press that notification bell so you're alerted when a new video is uploaded. The card sketches tend to have a few layers and mats, and I cut it according to size as shown on the card sketch, all in white card, and I use the ink. As I mentioned, these pattern papers come with recommended ink colors that match the pattern paper so beautifully. I prefer to use ink blending tool to ink the mats on the sides rather than take the ink pack direct to paper. I just like that softer look that it has. You can do it either way. I think in another one of my previous videos, I did do ink pad direct to paper method to have a darker, more vibrant color. So sometimes what I do is I try putting a color on one side, like for instance, I use the green tea here, not too keen on it. I just flip it on the other side and use the Jupiter Mist, the darker blue color. So it's quite versatile when you do that rather than having to cut different colored cardstock. I prefer to do it this way. For sketch card 3, due to the directional piece of the pattern paper, which the flowers, I didn't use it exactly in the orientation of the card sketch. So I turned it 90 degrees to the right. So the flowers on the piece of pattern paper will be showing up the right way. And because there are many layers, I had to use quite a few different additional pieces of card at the back of the mat to make sure when I put it on the paper, it's flat. And the long sentiment, I wanted to use that sentiment, but see how I cut it up and put it in the middle, and you still have the same sentiment. So don't look at the length of a sentiment and decide whether it can or cannot go in a certain space. You can always cut it up and you still get the same sentiment. Notice how I put this particular sketch together. So even if you cut your paper slightly off, it'll still fit. So I put the smaller pieces on either side of the rectangle first, and then I put the middle piece in the middle. So even though it's not going to be perfect fitting, if you're cutting it a few millimeters off here and there, you will still get it to fit beautifully. In this sketch, I used a stencil and did some ink blending with all the colors that are in the pattern paper to imitate or to kind of simulate the look of a scallop. And I love this waffle flower nesting dotted circles where I can do some stitching. You know, I do love a stitching die. And I put a die cut. Now I wanted to do a colored flower, but I thought with a colorful background, I'll make it a little bit more subtle and just hide it behind a white die cut. For this particular sketch, it would be different if you have a double-sided patterned paper. My previous submission in May, I had a double-sided patterned paper. I'll put the link in the description below so you can see how that works. For this pattern paper, it's not double-sided, but how do you go about doing it? Firstly, you follow the instructions. 2 5/8 of an inch right in the middle of the length of the paper. You cut an incision of about 1.5 inches and then score it diagonally to the end as shown. Then when you fold the paper back, it's just white paper, white card. So what I do is I use a stencil. This is a roses layering stencil from Tim Holtz. I use the colors that coordinate with the pattern paper because it's given already. So I use some pinks and greens that I think complements the green on the other side of the pattern paper. So when I fold it over, it complements it really well. And I do the same thing in the background as well. It's one way to do it. Now you could either do a stencil, you could draw some horizontal lines or some abstract lines with a fine liner, or you could just ink blend it with a totally different color. Totally flexible. But when you have a fold over and the other side is blank, don't panic, there are options. Having varied size blending brushes helps so you can get into the intricate parts of the stencil, whether it be the flower or the leaves, so you can get the right colors into the right parts of the stencil. Basically the right tools to get the job done. For this sketch, I did pretty much the same thing, but rather than just put the stencil, I put a bit of a background, a really light pink background before I put the stencil. It's a similar concept, but I really like the stencil once I got it out of my hiding space, I call it, because I've not used it in a long time, and I put the card together. in this sketch, I decided to do some ink blending, one with a stencil on one side and one just ink blend the colors. They're so easy to ink blend and they look so gorgeous together. I just decided to put some water on it because they react beautifully to water as well, just to lighten it a bit for some contrast. And when the card warps a bit, easy, you can get it a little bit sturdy by putting some fun foam behind it. When I do this, I tend to use a double-sided adhesive sheet. So I use this sheet so it's flat. It really flattens this card that's been spritzed with some water as well. Because card sketches 10 to 12 are very similar, I show them together. I pretty much use the same concept, but the papers are in different order. I put the individual components of paper onto a card which is measured 5¼ by 4 inches. So it's easier to then put it onto the base card. I think it's easier to manage that way. And I put that in and I embellish it in pretty much the same way. So these 3 cards, because of the similarity in their sketches, I have gone about doing them in pretty much the same manner. And to ensure the colors match even the sentiment strips, I have heat embossed old sentiments onto white card with white embossing powder, and then I just use the ink, the matching inks, and place it onto the strip. Wipe off the ink on the embossed areas and voila, you have a strip that matches the colors of each of the cards. After ink blending the background, I thought it was a bit dark. To lighten it, I spritzed it with some water because I know it reacts really well with water and it lightened the background. And I decided to also die cut it with the quilted heart die from Hefty Doodle. And with the tiny little hearts in the background, I backed it with some satin silver card, so it shows through very subtly. Here are the completed cards, all 15 of them. Now, remember a few things I want to recap. Cut out the mats in white card and do some ink blending so that you don't have to constantly be looking for the right colored card, and you can flip it over if you don't think the color is right. Look at all the supplies you have and have fun with it, because the sketch is a guide, and then embellishing it and putting it together, and the colors, the embellishments, it's that creative bit that you want to get involved in. Remember to put your layers, and don't limit yourself to using the sentiment in the way it's given. You can cut it up, you can block some of it and just use parts of it, and you can also use components of dies to do little slivers of cards that you need to put as part of the sketch, as I've shown you here in this particular sketch number 4. I love the die cut and the ink blending I've done there. Use your stencils, use your die cuts, use your embellishments, use your sewing kits, your sewing dies, your stitching dies. I do like a stitching die, I must say, and have fun with it. I really hope you enjoyed the video and it's given you lots of ideas on how to take part in this challenge. There is still another 2 weeks at least to take part in this quarterly challenge. The next quarterly challenge will start in early July. I think the 1st of July it'll start, and you'll get all the video hobs on the 2nd of July. But you'll have a whole 3 months to do it. So don't be overwhelmed with it. Get over to my blog. I show you how to use the cutting guide, the sketches, how to organize yourself so that you can actually do, even if you do for the whole quarter, 2 cards a week. Even if you do 2 cards a week, you'll still make it. I think it's a really fun challenge. And next, I'm going to show you the A2 size gift card boxes that you can do, and give these cards as a lovely present, a gift to someone, I think they'd really appreciate it because you're going to make some amazing cards with these sketches. Do head over to my blog, as I mentioned. I've got loads of information there. I've got all the information with regards to the products I've used, as well as to where you can get all of the guides, the sketches, etc. I'll even put a link to the initial video haul for this particular quarter, as well as the video of my previous submission where I use a different set of patterned papers. I love the way the sequins are used against some of the flower centers because I think it really enhances and brings out the patterned paper. I love using the patterned paper and inks that complement each other. I really hope you've had fun watching this video, and do head over to the Patreon site of Kendra Cards Challenge to see if you'd like to get the A2 size card gift box. I do show you how I make the belly band for that card. I do like belly bands. If you've seen my videos a little while, you know how I like to add a belly band to some cards and certainly to this gift card box. Take care, have fun, enjoy crafting, and I'll catch you at my next video. Ta-ta!